This episode of Behind the Mindset is brought to you by Bosch Home Comfort.
Do it. Thanks for having me here. Really fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming down, man.
Yeah.
So, obviously everybody knows me, but Charlie Felker, I mean, free to grow, right? Ex-military, like you look military. Yeah, there's no mistaking that when you walk through the door for sure. I think it's the form, the shirt tucked in. It's just the stature, you know. So.
High pants. Yeah.
So I know that, and people may not know this, but I know this. You operate a company, and you founded a company called Free to Grow, and I want to get into that. But first, I want to get into who is Charlie, right? What did your childhood look like?
Great question. And well, first of all, great to be here. Good to see you, Ben. I had a good childhood. Very, very active, very athletic. Good parents. Got 3 brothers. Very kind of disciplined, sportsy activity. You know, heading into summer here, a lot of camps, a lot of sports camps. And you know, I had some great parents who pushed us academically, physically, mentally. You know, be good people, ask questions, be inquisitive, take risk. You know, go for it, figure it out. So it was very kind of healthy. And I had my father, we went to visit the service academies at a young age. And my dad said, if you want to, these are, you know, the military academy. He goes, if anyone want to go to these schools, I'll pay you I'll give you any car you want to. And we were young, so that made an impression upon me. And so I did end up going to a service academy, West Point, New York. And that fit really well with how I was raised in my childhood and kind of the discipline and, you know, structure. So I had couldn't have asked for a better childhood, very supportive. And, you know, as I've become an entrepreneur, my military background, my parenting, my, you know, upbringing has certainly, you know, kind of been pretty simpatico. But yeah, and so I did some time in the service and then got out and have been kind of an entrepreneur ever since.
Yeah, I think when you're driven, especially coming out of the military, right? Like you want more, right? And there's always kind of like you're always trying to achieve something. So I could definitely see the entrepreneurial spirit that comes along with that. But I guess I got to ask, what car did you choose?
I got a Ford Mustang. When Ford came out with that new Mustang in like 2005, I wanted one. And it was very very not functional, tiny back seat. And I was just going from installation to installation with no trunk, so it just didn't make any sense. I think I had it for 2 years and then traded it in for a 4Runner or something, you know, because you're just lugging around.
But it was fun while it
was fun. It was a blast. Stick shift, you know, I was zooming around. And
kids nowadays don't know what that is.
Yeah. So I could always drive one if you have one. But it was a total blast. But, you know, he bought a Ford Mustang. It's probably a good deal for him, considering how expensive college is. The alternative, you know, the service academies are free.
Sure.
So now I'm like, okay, maybe I could pull that line out, you know, with my son or daughter here at some point.
Yeah, why not, right? History repeats itself.
Yeah.
So West Point, I rode a train past West Point.
Yeah.
I was coming from New York City up to Albany.
Yep.
And I looked out the side of the train.
It's
I was
gorgeous.
like, what is that? You know, and I just looked like a castle.
Yeah, it is. That's the Metro North Line up to Poughkeepsie in Albany. We took that train. We would cross the Bear Mountain Bridge and then take the train from Garrison or some of those train stations down into the city. It's a gorgeous train ride, especially on a nice summer day or the foliage is coming in. You're right. It's a castle built into the wall, you know, the hills. It's a spectacular school.
Yeah, incredible view.
Yeah.
That whole train ride is an incredible view.
Yeah.
So I was pretty blown away. When I think of New York, I think of New York City.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think of New York like just New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
you know, the thing that I will laugh is having gone there, you know, it's definitely a military school, you know, the discipline, the structure. And so when I go back on reunions and we take that train, it's like the nervous feeling I get in my stomach, like, oh God, you know, I got to go back and we got wake up times now and homework.
Flashbacks.
Like, you know, it's not, still, we laugh because we still get that feeling. You're like,
That's funny.
I see it now and I got to get out the train and we're going to get into the taxi. And you're like, oh, here we go.
So looking back at your military career, what was maybe the coolest moment or the most unforgettable moment in your military career?
I certainly have vivid memories. Like West Point graduation, I remember was a big deal because that's 4 hard years. I got there in 2002, so we were the first class to enter West Point in a time of war since Vietnam. So so when you graduate, it's 4 tough years. President Bush was our speaker, so I have vivid memories of seeing him. Like there's a president sitting right there, and so stuff like that sticks out. And I've got certain deployment memories that really stick out, and certain people. We mentioned like a Mike Sorelli here in Austin. Like so you remember certain people really well. But I don't think I could pin down one memory. The graduating from college was such a big one because that was a 4-year grind.
Sure.
And finally to be like, God, let's get out of here. And
were you good in high school? Like, did you get good grades?
I was okay. I was B student. I was good, good, played a lot of sports and very active and well-rounded, but not, I think West Point, I think some of the service academies don't necessarily look for the A+ student. They want like, okay, if you're a B student, but you're good at sports and you're likable and a leader, I think they're looking more for that package.
How does the class of West Point differ from how does it differ during the time of war versus just going to West Point?
I think they're looking for the same kind of people. I think their curriculum changed, right? Because 02, 03, even 04, the war, you're in Afghanistan, Iraq, and then you start to get graduates that are coming back and saying, you're wasting your time teaching this based on what's going to be happening in a couple of years. So I noticed like summer training would start to change a little bit. Like the military science courses got more focused and refined based on like real world input. So we definitely saw that. I think more time in the field. We got more speakers, like a lieutenant coming back on break, talking to our class, like more Q&A. We definitely saw that pick up. Let's not maybe do some of the ancient history and the sword fighting.
Sure.
Let's start talking about,
what really matters.
what's happening in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground make all the difference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I had something and it just escaped me. What was your MOS in the military? Like, what did you do?
Good question. I was 11 Alpha. I was an infantry officer.
Okay.
Most, I'm sure West Point kind of ebbs and flows, as far as the needs of the Army. I think when you had those two conflicts going on, you had a lot of the, gung-ho alpha personalities that wanted to go infantry. That's still kind of the bread and butter. When you think of the Army, you think about people marching around with rifles and doing that. So that was definitely the popular thing to do. And that's what it is. So I picked that. I think a class of almost 900. I was like towards the 600 to 700 was my class rank. So I was not anything special. But then I got the branch that I wanted, and then I got the post that I wanted, and I was kind of off and running post graduation.
While at West Point, or even prior to that, just in high school or just growing up as a kid, who was your most respected relative?
I really respected my older brother. He was a great role model. My father was a great role model. I think I would definitely focus on those two. Athletic, good leaders, nice people, thoughtful. Yeah, and my dad was such a good role model. He's a serious guy, but very empathetic and athletic. All the stuff that I kind of wanted to be.
You had a dad that was empathetic?
Yeah,
interesting,
and a risk taker. He had done businesses, and so it was kind of nice to get that. He really instilled like a love of the country too. I remember like driving and we're in Illinois now or Wisconsin. You talk about this state and that state. You're like, this is cool. So he was great that way.
I feel like most dads from that generation were just hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get it. Like there's a time to be hard, right? And then there's also a time to be tender, if you will.
Yeah.
Most people can't do both. They choose one or the other.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, he had a good balance. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you're in the AI space, which is pretty
fast moving.
Yeah, I mean it's super fast moving. It's kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, it kind of did, but it kind of didn't. Like it's been in our face for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Like people have been talking about it, and but man, there's like everybody is jumping into this space.
I know.
So when did you start this,
Mm-hmm.
and what prompted you to do so?
Mm-hmm. So Free to Grow was a business that I started with a good friend, Nathan, who's my partner. Started in December of 2019. I had a home service business. We were doing aging in place modifications like stair lifts and ramps and modular ramps and vertical platform lifts and overhead lifts. And so basically equipment to keep people in their home.
Most people don't think about that as a service business.
Very much. Yeah, very much. People want to live at home. It's very similar to your traditional home service company. You get client submitting a web form and you got to call the client, you got to screen them, explain what your services are, book an appointment, do a home evaluation, present a quote or an estimate of what you're going to do, and then a timeline, and you got to order product, you got to service the product. It's you're working with CRMs. Clients are upset because there's service issues. It's very similar. It's very, very much a service company. So I sold that in 2019, and then I had a problem. I sold my business, and I'm like, what could I have done to maximize my profitability? And when you sell your business, you keep your cash, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to pay you 4 times what your last 12 months earnings are. And so I'm like, what could I have done better? And I'm like, I really didn't need a full-time CSR, customer service rep. I probably needed a third or half of a person. So we started Free to Grow, in essence, to help people like me, home service owner operators, that the phone's ringing, but they don't need it full time. So what we did was we basically hired some fractional CSRs to work for Joe's Lawn Care, Bob's Plumbing, whatever it is. We had a good business, had about 20 people. And a year ago, my partner and I were actually talking about this yesterday. Like, when did we get into AI? So a year ago, so let's call it May, April 2024, we heard a recording, a very now rudimentary recording in some Facebook group. And Nathan, my partner, sent it to me, and we're like, okay, this is going to be a force. And I'm skipping over some key steps, but ultimately we linked up with gentleman, Jerry, who's our now CTO. Jerry is a machine learning guy, Ivy League educated. He's 21, 22, been doing machine learning for 4 years, just a wizard. And so he had built a language model that was trying to get into home services via AI voice. So phone, your customer calls in, AI picks it up, has a conversation with the client, books the call, does the back and forth, achieves some objective. So he had built a model that was very good. It's just nobody knew who Jerry was, right? He had a small business, him and his partner, doing washing bottles, selling, marketing, doing code.
And how long ago was this?
This is about a year ago.
Okay.
And so we partnered with Jerry. So, but Jerry, we've got this distribution. We know home services. We've got sales capability. Let's marry up. So we ended up buying Jerry's business, basically Jerry and the IP. And Jerry, owns a large portion of Free to Grow, and he's our CTO now. So it was a good marriage. So about a year ago, we called all of our clients and said, hey, I know you're used to having these people answer your phones. Beginning in the near future, that's not going to be the case. And half our clients left us, and half stayed. Okay, and so the half that have stayed are basically, very evangelical about what we're doing and saw it, and we're like, I get it. This is kind of where it's going. You've been good partners. We'll stick with you. But we made probably a month or 2 month pivot from a white glove call center with people answering phones to a technology business.
Wow.
And it was a great move. A lot of stub our toe moments, a lot of frustration. You look at the technology back then, it was glitchy, especially people who would, interrupt the AI, it'd start over. And then you hear calls, you're like, oh, this is just painful. But the pace of where it is now is I hate to use the word frightening, but it's something in that league.
It's moving fast.
It's moving fast. 25 to 50% improvement every month.
I didn't think it was moving that fast.
It's moving that fast.
Wow.
Persuasion now, tone, empathy.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away. I heard a call. I think it was one of the calls that you had sent me, and I was blown away listening to this lady, quote unquote, right, speaking to a computer essentially. Mm-hmm. that she's not asking and saying the normal things, right? She's like, can you please hurry up? Like, I have young kids in the house and blah, blah, blah. And there was even another call that this guy was like, hey, I have my cat is stuck in the furnace or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And the AI stopped and was like, well, first of all, I want to say that I'm sorry about your cat and you
Yeah.
should call, emergency
control.
services,
Yeah.
whatever it was,
Yeah.
right? And I was just like sitting there going, what the heck, dude? Like,
Yeah.
it just pivoted from like the normal, hey, can you schedule my call? Yeah, does Tuesday at 5 p.m. work, right? To like this AI showing empathy, which is kind of spooky because if it can do that now, fast forward 5 years from now, you're not going to be able to tell if the person you're talking to is real on the phone. You're not going to be able, and if they can get these silicone bodies that they're doing, and you install the AI stuff into that, you're not going to be able to tell if you're real.
Right.
Are you real?
I know. I am. Hairy arms and yeah.
That can all be fabricated.
Yeah. It's going to be. So what we've seen from when we started to now, we would pop a bottle of champagne when we had what's called a complete call, right? Where the AI would take a client through like the entire script. And then we refresh Service Titan or whatever and see that appointment pop up. I mean, now that's table stakes, okay? Right, now it's like persuading people. The AI is so good that we've actually created our sales line. So if you go on freetogrow.com and you call in, you're going to talk to AI, okay? And AI is helping sell Free to Grow, okay? And we've done that as a tool, basically like a demo tool where if you're Bob, the plumber, you call in and you're talking AI, it almost sells itself. So we're you mentioned 5 years, it's going to be end of summer when you're going to have a hard time telling if this is AI. We're almost there right now. I think the big hurdles for us have been getting the technology where it's not glitchy. We can talk to interrupty people now. Doesn't skip a beat. Right now it's like getting the booking rate, which right now we're hovering like 75. We have big clients that were like 80, 85%. So it's booking at a really successful rate. Introducing, persuasion. Okay, can we get you on a service plan? Okay, why not? Okay, we have 800 5-star reviews. We've got this number of technicians. We service. It's like, it can get to that point where it's almost like selling on your behalf.
Well, I remember when you initially kind of showed me this and I was like, Charlie, how good is this really, right? And you just kind of looked at me and you're like, dude, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
And I was pretty blown away by it. But like, obviously this is not without its challenges, right?
Totally.
And so like, how do you navigate those challenges of like, hey, this AI is not doing what we want it to do here. How do you fix that? And is the AI actually learning as it goes, or is it programming that you physically program in to make those changes?
It's a combination of both. So you can have like your behavior panel, you can have your scripting. There's other things that we can push and pull, and it is learning. The challenge is every home service owner operator hears calls a little bit differently and is going to want AI to respond a little bit differently. Some people want it more pressure, like book the call, book the call, book the call. Some are like, hey, you know what? If it's calling in this area code, those are my neighbors. I don't want to like pressure them. So that's where like the input of us kind of comes in, where we can manually go in and update the knowledge base or the behavior panel, all that stuff, and change it. The pace of how organic and natural the voice is and how seamless interactions are going is what's been most surprising to me. The challenge, you could have, people have done this every day. You can go on and have a conversation with AI, talk about shoes and weather and restaurants in Austin and ramble on about anything for an hour. That's very doable. But then the challenge with AI is having an objective and then combining those two, right? Because you want to be able to talk about the weather today, who won the game, and then keep somebody on track of, okay, I've got a script, I've got to get some information, I've got to figure out what the issue is, and I've got to get a call booked. That's where like the magic is happening, right? It's how do you balance being conversational with this person's calling Bob the plumber for a reason?
Sure.
I've got to get that like done. But I mean, there's so many apps and technique. You could go ramble on for 2 hours with AI and just get nothing done, but ultimately have a quick, concise conversation, under 4 minutes.
I feel like with AI in today's day and age, if you were a young 20-year-old and you're like, hey, I want to start a business, you could almost even ask AI, how do I do this? What's the first thing I should do? Right. And it's almost going to give you a step-by-step based off of information that's out there.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's never been easier to do anything because you have essentially a free virtual assistant doing everything for you.
Yeah. That's the scary thing about, I'm just going to be really honest here. The scary thing about the business is where is this all going?
Yeah. Where's the end game?
I don't think anybody, like we had a very heart-to-heart with our developers, and they're in the heart of San Francisco where all the resources, all the developers are, all the money. And they don't even, I mean, they get excited, they get scared. How, can I just go at some point and type in, create me a home service CRM, and I want these 10 features? Like yeah, that's probably coming. So it's like, what do you build that's defensible, that people want, that produces results? It's going to be an interesting time, really is. And I don't think anybody can tell you what's really going to happen over the next hill.
For sure. I mean, you do one thing and it has ripple effects down the road, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, with all of these, like I've been seeing all this stuff of like robots that are coming out. And I think even Elon Musk was talking about robots you're going to have a robot here in the next like 3 years or something you can buy and just
that's your buddy.
Do everything with you, right? Your dishes, your laundry, whatever. And that just blows me away. But obviously those are all driven by AI. And they're not only the crazy thing about AI is it almost reads people better than people read people, right? And then it stores that information. It's like, oh, when he sighs and makes that face, he's worried about this. Like, how do I fix that for him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's pretty spooky. But like on
AI's picking up on that. We'll have pauses where you give a price on a service fee, and somebody's like, and they go, what about the price is concerning? So you're like, wow,
that's pretty wild.
It's at that level.
At a very intermediate level, how does AI specifically learn that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's all input on the knowledge base, and then every conversation is being categorized. And then where it gets really effective is when you categorize a call, and then you're kind of combining the human input of what the model already is, and the model's already built, and say, hey, actually, no, tweak this. Like, let's say when somebody calls in for just like a propane tank or some specific thing, that's where you can like introduce, the human input with already what the AI has done. And that's where it just gets so powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I mean, what does the future hold for us?
I can try to guess. I certainly think it's moving fast, and we're just in this little small world of home services, and there's so much out there. We don't even know about what's going on. I mean, look at insurance or education or healthcare or whatever. I think the technology for what companies like mine are doing, at least on the inbound phone side, probably eventually dispatching, it's probably the home service office to a large extent is going to be kind of AI talking to AI. Okay. That's just kind of my forecast.
So I've seen clips on the internet about AI found out, this AI program or whatever found out that it was going to be shut down, so it like duplicated itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that movie GoldenEye, or not GoldenEye, with the Shia LaBeouf movie. What was that called? Eagle Eye. It was Eagle Eye. Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but I'm sure there's some like when I talk to our developers, like the fact that they don't know what's coming or they have concerns, it's like, man, these guys are at, ground zero and they have concerns about controlling this. But it just gets so darn good. And, I get it. Answering phones has been a challenge for my company. So if there's a legitimate problem that it can solve, I think that's great. I think there's going to be a lot of pros, a lot of cons. I think for right now, our most success is going to be for after hours and overflow. It's a great way for people to get a sense of how the technology can work and then slowly integrate it, during the day.
Well, I feel that's obviously where it started, right? But I think as you continue to develop this stuff, you go, well, what if it did this, right?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of keep navigating those waters.
Oh, we did. Like, what if it could recognize, return customers? And so that's a feature that our developers said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if Ben Poole called in and the AI recognized Ben and pulled up his CRM, page and said, hey, Ben, we were out to your home 10 months ago. How's that new hot water heater working out for you?
Right.
Actually, that's why I'm calling. Okay, what could we do for it? So it's doing that now.
To be clear, though, 10-year water heater's not new.
Whatever. I'm just giving to you. Yeah,
Just making sure.
Yeah. Whatever the analogy is. It's doing, repeat customer functionality.
Yeah.
So the capabilities, it's just going to be, there's always just going to be getting into dispatching or outbound texting or happy calls. There's so many little things that this is going to start to.
Yeah, I feel like,
on.
I can have a conversation about AI with Efren, right? And we're rolling down the road in the truck. We can watch videos or whatever. But like, I don't really get to have AI conversations with people who are actively involved in AI, right? Short of like, we're involved in AI because you use ChatGPT or whatever.
Right.
My sister, right? She's using ChatGPT for a lot of stuff. Like, hey, build me a proposal for blah 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 blah. Right. What's for our award show, right? Analyze our award show and our sponsorships and tell us what should be a premium spot and blah blah blah, and like what should they sell for, and it's just like, holy crap. And it's like, I think for me that was the initial thought of, dude, we could ask this to how to start and run a business and just follow the steps, and how could you not be successful, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky.
I don't even know what questions to ask my developers. I try to let them, they get very focused on, one or two things at a time, and like we've been very focused exclusively on just the inbound AI voice component. We see some companies that are doing that and other things and this and that. We're just going to get that really, 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 really good. And so that's been our just laser focus. And I'm sure there's other stuff going on that I have no idea that's happening. But
if you could give yourself, your 20-year-old version self, advice, what would it be? Buy Bitcoin?
Buy Bitcoin, yeah. Man, I that's a great question. I would definitely be more like calculated on financial planning. I was definitely kind of, I was in the military, so I didn't really focus on that stuff because I had healthcare and I had this and that and decent pay. So I would definitely redo that. I think starting a business earlier, even if you're just saying this is going to be a big cluster, I'm going to learn a lot. And I would do that versus, because I went and got a master's degree. I think that was a waste, personally. I would go out and go start a lawn care company where you've got to do a mix of stuff. You got to talk to clients. You got to deliver on a product or service. You got to get paid or not paid. You got to balance. You got to get into QuickBooks. You got to pay people. You got to work with people. I would do that for a year or 2 years and just say, this could be great or this could be a huge flop. I'm going to spend $50K and do it. I would do that totally.
So
when you're 20.
You never thought going from a master's degree to installing lift equipment in somebody's house?
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, what are you doing, man? You're installing stair lifts and ramps.
Yeah, you got a master's degree, Charlie.
That's
what
not
are you thinking?
Deloitte, or that's not some consulting firm, right?
Yeah.
But AI is going to be threatening to a lot of those kind of white collar firms. For sure.
I ran into a lawyer. I'm trying to remember what city I was in. Bumped into him in an elevator. We started talking about AI, and this was maybe 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And he said, for the first time ever, white collar jobs are on the line.
Yeah.
With AI and everything that's happening. versus, and this was 3 years ago, right? Versus like blue collar jobs have never been more prevalent,
Yeah.
never been more needed than they are right now.
Well, vocational schools, community college, unemployment's lower than it is at 4-year traditional colleges. So I think that's already probably happening. I would, long story short, I would definitely go out and start a company in the trades, and just with no other purpose, just to learn a lot when I was 20. What do you got to lose? You know?
It's good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
And if it's great, it's great.
College is not for everybody, and I think we've all come to the realization of that, right? And if you haven't, then you're living under a rock. I mean, trades right now is where it's at. You can make more money in the trades than you can go and sit in a cubicle with a degree. I mean, that's just simple facts, right? And you don't have the debt that's involved with going to school, right? So you can get out of high school and go right into a trade, start learning from the ground up. And if you're driven and you want to learn and you have a desire for it, dude, you could, in 3 to 5 years, like you can excel super fast, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't. In the trades, most people just, they get in with the wrong company, and the company's not interested in training them, and we'll get around to it, right? And then all of a sudden you realize, dude, I've been here for 10 years and I've gotten like one pay raise. I'm doing the same thing I was doing when I started. And it's like most of these companies today, not just in HVAC, but most trades in general, there's no real career path, right? It's like, as a contractor, you're like, I just need a guy in that seat to turn wrenches, and that's what I need for the next 20 years. Are you going to be that guy? Yeah. You know? And I think that's a terrible way to look at it. But that's just the raw reality.
I agree. And I think you also need a group of people, like mentors, people like you that know different things, and you can kind of see the world through their eyes if you're that young. And say, like, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? Well, I heard about this doing this or that, this industry. I think you got to have that too. And I think young men are like, I'm good. I got it. You know, I'll figure this out. I'll muscle it out. I'll grit it out. I think that's very stupid looking back.
With the rate at which AI is learning, if you had to take a long shot guess, when could we see the blue collar world get competitive against AI? Like, obviously we would always say, hey, AI is great, and it's we don't have to fear it because it's only going to be diagnosing the problems, right? But reality is if I can have a robot AI driven in my house doing laundry for me, why could I not send a robot AI driven to change out a blower motor or a capacitor or whatever, right? It doesn't sweat, it doesn't stop, it doesn't eat, it doesn't complain. It's just there doing the work.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the physical work replacement. I do know that it's going to be more in the trades, right? More value additive for the back office stuff quickly. Like that's happening today. I don't know if that, I look at the trades, I'm like, man, the trades, as far as something that was very defensible against AI, at least the core product.
For now.
Yeah. Who knows what the timing is. Again, I don't know if anybody knows exactly for sure, but that seems to be a ways away for me. But I'll say it again, the back office, the phones, the texting, the communication, the office, that's going to be bots talking to bots at some point. It's just too good, too fast, too accurate, too consistent, too cheap. That's my crystal ball over the next year. End of the summer, from what we're seeing, number of clients, big clients we're onboarding, most, if not all, of the big home service business, especially HVAC, plumbing, electrical, are going to be using AI. Whether it's voice or texting or email or website support, all that kind of back office stuff, that train is left the yard.
Well, I guess from a very rudimentary standpoint, you go, we've been using AI for a long, long time. When it says, thank you for calling. For sales, press 1.
Yeah.
Right? And now we've just come so far beyond that. But typically, whatever we have in our possession that's new technology to us has been in use in the military for 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So in your military stint, did you ever see any type of AI in use?
Not to say it wasn't, and it wasn't there. I just didn't know it. No, we did some cutting edge stuff with drones that are now pretty ubiquitous. As far, when you look at the wars going on now, using drones for real time footage and analysis, there could have been some AI. I just didn't know. So not that I heard about. No. But I like talking about warfare. I mean, the AI is going to be Like I read about this new F-47, which is going to be built in my hometown, St. Louis. I heard there's going to be some sort. It's a physical aircraft. You know, the new fighter.
Yeah, doesn't Boeing has
Boeing.
a shop there? Yeah.
Yeah. That's where they're going to build it, and it's going to be fully integrated with drones, so the pilot can fly with drones, and the drones are going to be integrated with the aircraft and communicating with each other in real time. It's going to be wild. So there's going to be AI applications. So who knows?
I guess at some level you get to a point where you have a fighter jet that has no pilot in it at all, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately that's the safest bet for it because there's no human casualty, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said for the feel of what it is you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like you know the limitations of the aircraft because you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
And liability, like human decisions, like do I launch or not launch?
Yeah.
You know, who's making that? Is AI making that decision to,
That's scary.
send a missile? Yeah.
Yeah, imagine if we look at all these movies, right?
Yeah.
We're going to war with machines,
Right.
So
But even when you're watching something remote on a screen, there's somebody that's making that decision. There's a chain of command. There's approvals. There's levels of intelligence that have to be met. Like there he is. That's him in the red.
until
whatever.
there's not.
Until there's not. So that's where I could see where having somebody eyes on is.
Yeah, I think the downside to having artificial intelligence do something and start making decisions is that what happens when it decides to go rogue?
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Yeah.
right? I think I remember maybe it was the Eagle Eye movie or maybe it was something else, but it was it was basically saying I'm here to protect humanity from itself, so I have to start taking out certain people because these are just bad people, right?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. Like I have to take down the government because the government is not for the people, and it's what I'm saying. It's like where does it draw the line?
Yeah.
I don't know that would be like a human conscience, right? With that, So it's scary. It really is.
So I went to high school with Sam Altman, who's OpenAI. He was a grade below me at a small. He started OpenAI and ChatGPT, and so it's been interesting to see him. From the halls of our small high school in St. Louis to what he's done now. And I look at him like, man, I'm just doing voice answering and trades. And
You're scratching the surface.
He's doing, who knows?
That's interesting. How old are you?
I'm 41.
Okay, so you're my age. It's just interesting to see you at 41 or in your, you guys in your 40s and being in this space, whereas you would think it would be like the 25 to 30-year-olds in, that younger generation who's kind of pioneering all of this.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely driving it. I'm selling it and presenting it. They're the ones doing all the coding and pushing the envelope for sure.
Oh, I get it. So our generation comes up with the great ideas.
We come up with the
use
idea.
the younger generation to throttle it.
Yeah. Here's the cash. Here's the opportunity. Here's what I want. We got in trouble as a business because we would get so excited. So my partner and I always want to say yes. Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And they're like, stop. Like that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
Can AI do this? Yeah, right. And so they'd say, we're going to get the inbound AI voice really good, booking at a high rate, very conversational, recognizing repeat customer functionality. And we're just going to start slapping. I'm like, so it took us like 6 months for us to like calm down. Because we're like, can we do texting? Can we do? They're like, shut up, guys. Like,
stay in your lane.
You don't know what's doable. So if you say yes to that, you're going to have to call the client and say, we can't do it.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, though, like really nothing is impossible, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. It's moving frighteningly fast. And I don't know nearly enough, but.
Yeah. Do you ever stop and think like, I'm contributing to this? Like if in 5 to 10 years, however many years, this whole thing goes sideways, AI takes this drastic turn, we can't shut it off. It's doing all kinds of crazy stuff to our lives and society, right? Have you ever thought about any of that stuff? And have you ever thought of like, man, I'm contributing to that right now?
Maybe. There's so many companies. I mean, AI is a huge thrust in the economy.
Sure.
Well,
AI is the cryptocurrency, right?
I think that cat was out of the bag so long ago. I think the train is moving so far ahead of where we are as a business in new industries that are going to be far more significant, I hate to say it, than home services. I mean, I'm looking at healthcare and all the finance and all these millions of jobs. I think we're operating at a level that's, little league compared to what's out there. I really do. I mean, I get some of the concern with like self-defense and, cyberware and attacks and stuff that could be quite scary in those scenarios. And I'm like, we created a language model that can answer the phones for the plumbers. We came along. I would not start if I would start free to grow right now with AI. I would, we're too late today. We pivoted very quickly at a right time. We had a good relationships. People knew us, so we could make the pivot quickly. But I wouldn't dream of starting a AI voice company right now. I think the ship has sailed.
Interesting. What does competition look like in that space for you?
So I think it's going to be just like CRMs. I think there's going to be a handful of companies that make it, build a base of loyal customers that like it, coming up with constant improvements. I think that's going to be the dynamic. I think ultimately the technology is probably going to be pretty commoditized here soon. Everybody kind of has access to the same open platforms. The technology is certainly not that right now because I think we're very good, better on the voice. I think some companies are doing voice and texting and this and that. That's great, but we're just focused on the one. So there's going to be probably a handful of companies in the trades that are very good at answering phones the way you want it. The CRM integration piece is key. Being able to dump information into a Fuel Pulse or a House Call Pro.
I was going to ask you that.
That's key.
Right? You had mentioned earlier Service Titan, right?
Yeah.
So somebody might be watching and go, man, this sounds really cool. Like, how would I integrate this? And is it integratable into my current CRM?
Yeah, most have that open API. Some don't. But we hang our hat on that. So we'll spend, our team probably spent 3-4 months of heads down work getting the Service Titan integration really good. I think that was our focus. The largest, that's kind of the household brand.
Service Titan's the 800-pound gorilla for sure.
So and we just signed a technology partnership with them. So we're like focused with them. But yeah, most CRMs are going to be getting online. I think some CRMs are going to try to build their own. I think that's going to be tough. For them, it's a different business model. You've got to be in the weeds, and you can't just build an out of the box unless you want just a answering machine. It's not going to really add a lot of value, right? You have to like tweak it. You got to personalize it. You got to script it. You got to constantly update the knowledge base. If every little company is different, they want to do something different in this zip code versus that, and this, there's just so many variants, and you have to have that. Where if CRMs, in my opinion, are going to build a one size fits all, and it's going to be tough because they're going to call and say, hey, I want this. Like, well,
sure,
this is what you got.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to work. So we're very focused on spending 2 weeks, 3 weeks, personalizing it, scripting workflows, get the integration down, test it for a week, tweak it, go live. Is kind of our model.
Military service industry or service business and free to grow. Are you more happy now than you were in those other businesses, or I say businesses, but military?
Yeah. Good question. The military when I was there was intoxicating because it was just deployments. I was in a really aggressive unit. We would deploy for 4 months and it was like playing at a football game every day. So I think about it like 10 times a day because it was so exciting. You had just unbelievable resources every day, crazy technology, intelligence gathering. It was like, wow, we're really at the tip, right? It's like what we're talking about now. It's like we had that for listening to phones or tracking people on phones or, drone technology and all that kind of warfare. It was so cool. So it was definitely, kind of a letdown. I building my first business, I think I was happy. I wasn't making much money because I was putting everything, so it was stressful. And I had a good wife who kind of covered some of the bills, but that was tough. And it was pride swallowing. You're like, what am I doing? I'm up here on a ladder in an attic, not making any money. What am I doing, right? But you get out of it and you build it, and it just things come. I think I'm very happy now. I like the technology. I think we've got a really good product. I really do. I think we're very focused. I know what I know how we have to take care of people. Like metrics matter, right? You got to book calls. You got to balance that with customer service. And so we've tried to really imbue that in our whatever the word is in our technology. I just don't want to build this like machine that is just whatever. We got to have some empathy and understand what's going on. It's a tough balance because I do think over time this technology is going to be very prevalent in the back office. I just don't want to like push that right now because it's just not. People aren't like. I don't think people are aware of how good the tech is because we hear sometimes people when the AI picks up and they figure out they're talking to AI, they say talk to a human. I'm like, this AI is going to get your information booked faster, better, cleaner, all these things.
Yeah, even talking to a human. I mean, just the other day I was talking to somebody and they're like, what was your phone number? And I'm like, I just gave my phone number to the last dude I had on the phone. Right? Yeah. Or I just gave you my account number or whatever. Like, why am I inputting this stuff 2 or 3 times? Yeah. That's super annoying. And
just
AI
the repeat
is just
customer functionality. Like you call in, AI is going to immediately recognize the number, pull up your service Titan profile. Is this Ben calling? Yes. Okay. We were out to your home. This is still all your information. You still the homeowner. Great. What can I do for you? Okay. Book, boom. And not be, quick about it.
Sure.
Too quick. So it's going to be a fascinating time, man. I think we pivoted at the right time. I don't know what the next 6 months are going to be. I know we've got kind of our little roadmap to keep building this, improving upon this, but I candidly don't know what AI is going to look like in 6 months. It's moving that fast.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows, but it's scary, but it's also useful, right?
Yeah, very much.
And so you have to try to balance that out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I was back in my old Promise Homeworks days and I was missing calls and this and that, I'd be like, this tool is phenomenal.
For sure.
I'm going to show up at, have a beer at 5 o'clock and I'm going to get my little call report and see these calls booked and this and that. And I'm paying $600 a month. Okay, sign me up. I get it. So
yeah, you're going to pay more to a human being.
Yeah.
More than $600 a month. For sure.
And there's there's challenges there.
Things, yeah. I get it. Yeah, man. So if somebody was interested in learning more about Free to Grow and the AI platform that you guys have, where would somebody go to do that?
We got a great website. So it's free, FREE-2, grow.com, free2grow.com. We have a demo line on there. Again, that demo line is going to basically, it's your first interaction with AI voice. Okay. It's when we get, I'll send you some recordings of people who haven't spoken to AI before, and it's quite enlightening. So we use that as a tool to have a conversation, with a prospect. They can call in and they can book a demo directly on that AI line. So you get to see, what the conversation looks like. You get to test it. What can you guys do? And then book a call. So you're like, okay, I see how this can book a call and integrate with my CRM. So that's been a very effective tool for us. And we're bullish on our technology. So it's a great, it's a differentiator between us and other companies.
Sure. Are you working with Tersh by chance?
Yeah. We're partners
so Tersh
with
is a huge AI guy. So he's written many articles in the magazine for concerning AI anyways. But
we're doing a formal partnership with them probably starting here in the next month or two.
Very cool.
Yeah. But Tersh is great.
I know she's working with Zach too.
Yeah.
Zach Desjardins.
Tersh and Zach and Curtis is a customer, and Jake Krause is now a customer.
Oh, nice.
And we're supporting their respective companies.
Krause is a character, man.
He's a character. He has our hat here. He wears it all the time. We had dinner with him. He's great. He's a great guy. I love it. I came to your awards show. It was such a organic, natural event, which is really, driving this partnership. It was nice to see how thoughtful and engaged and caring people are. It was very enlightening. Yeah. And it's such a, positive. I forget who the guest speaker was. Who was the keynote speaker? Who did all the training at the event?
Dan Hallhan?
Yes.
He wasn't a keynote. He was the Lifetime Achievement.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And so he commented, he goes, this energy in this room is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think he spoke, that was just covered everybody's sentiment.
Yeah. I think, people give me a lot of credit for cultivating this whole thing, and I did it, right? The community cultivated itself, right?
Yeah.
And how that happens is you get a bunch of great people wanting to hang out with great people that just happen to do the same stuff in as a career, right? And what you see now is the effect of that is the award show, right?
Yeah.
And just an incredible community, people who want to help each other and want to build people up.
Yeah.
And then, like anything in life, there's always the opposite of all that, right? And people who are there to tear you down.
Yeah.
And, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And, blah, 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 blah. So any negative thing you can think of that's out there.
I didn't see that. I felt very positive, and everybody I talked to felt the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to going again this year in Vegas.
In Vegas, yeah.
Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, we Zach's great, Curtis is great, Jake's great. We love those kind of partnerships. We'll give them the technology, and they get to test it and feel it, and like Curtis, it's become a big part of his business. So he's a great example of what he's out on the job site or making content, and AI is there. His bot is there.
As a contractor and an entrepreneur, like, you want to try to utilize technology to make your life and your job easier, right? And really, there's, I've been saying this for years, but I'm third generation in this business. When I was brought up in this business, we were writing paper tickets, right? Press hard because there's a carbon copy on the back, right?
Oh, I know.
Rip it out, get the signature, collect the money. Like, websites were like, man, if you had a website, you were the man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, everything is so at your fingertips. Like, we didn't have cell phones.
I know.
I remember my dad came home with a satchel and opened up. He pulled out this phone with a cord going down, and he was like, "Dude, my dad was a man." It's like we got a freaking mobile phone in this leather satchel briefcase thing. It's like technology has come so far. It's like, if you can't succeed in business, you're doing something severely wrong because all the tools are right here at your disposal.
Yeah.
So
I heard somebody say, if you're not using AI, it's like not having a website.
interesting.
That's kind of where it's going to be. So people typically have websites now. So I could see that as another analogy.
Yeah. That's a great comment to end the podcast.
Yeah.
If you're not using AI, it's like not having a website.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
You heard it here from Charlie.
I didn't originate that. I heard it. So paraphrasing.
Awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming down, man.
Loved it.
Great time. And we'll see what the world holds or what the future holds for us. So
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you guys.